Hello, everyone! Welcome to another episode of Reacting Reddit, where real humans read, react, and summarize trending topics using replies on Reddit to explain them to you. So before we get into this, what are we talking about today? Well, unfortunately, Larry King is dead. But when someone like this dies, you can't get too bummed out about it because they had such awesome lives and they made so much content. And even though Larry King is dead, you could do tons of things that get you in touch with Larry King, what he was like, who he interviewed. Larry King's super interesting person, interviewed loads of people, talk show host kind of person, American. I guess that's all the context you need. Like, he interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of really famous people, and is a very respected individual. Like, people who want to become great, Larry King's one of the people they study, basically, right? So get this. He wrote or made a Reddit post. So we're going to be looking at a Reddit post by Larry King on the Ask Me Anything section. So he wrote this post titled, "I am Larry King, back again on Reddit. Ask me absolutely anything." So we're going to be looking at the replies to that. So it's going to be people asking him questions and then Larry King answering them. All right. Now let's get into it. It starts off with Larry King making a statement, and then after that it's going to be questions and then him answering them. So his first comment talks about an experience that is motivational by Rocky Marciano. Former undefeated heavyweight champion, the late Rocky Marciano, told me that when he was a kid, there was a bully in the neighborhood that he was always afraid of, that he would go out of his way to avoid running into him. And then on the night Rocky won the heavyweight championship, the childhood bully came to see him in his locker room, and for a couple of seconds, Rocky was afraid. That's funny. I like that because it really shows how we're just all human. And even the people you idolize and think are amazing and think that they would never have that kind of issue, they too actually have problems and insecurities that you don't know anything about. And oftentimes we neglect ourselves by thinking that famous people and people we respect have no insecurities, because then we see we have insecurities, and so we think of them as different than us. But really, we're all human. We all have a remarkable potential to learn and improve our circumstance. We all have a superpower, so to speak, a great intelligence. Even the dumbest human is remarkably smarter than almost every other organism on this planet. So let's get at it. Moving on. Larry, I read that once you crashed your car into John F. Kennedy before he was president. What's the story behind this? Larry says, "It was a Sunday morning, and I was a young disc jockey in Miami Beach. Me and my 3 friends of mine were driving up to Palm Beach in 1958. We rolled up to Palm Beach in a convertible. I was driving, and it was a beautiful Sunday morning. And I was looking up, looking at all the beautiful homes, and suddenly I bumped into a car stopped at a red light. I was going only about 10 miles an hour. The guy in the car jumped out, walked over to me, and said, 'How could you hit me? There's nobody in the road. It's a beautiful day. How could you hit me?' And I said, 'I'm sorry. We were looking up. I apologize. Do you want my license?' And he said, 'No, I'm Senator Kennedy. I'm going to run for president in 2 years. And I want the 4 of you to raise your hands and swear that you'll vote for me.' Which we did. So that's the story. That's hilarious. Apparently, Larry King crashed into Kennedy. That's crazy. Now both of those dudes are dead. And we can still interact with them, so to speak, you know? It's pretty beautiful how the internet, they say you have 2 deaths, right? When you actually die, and then the last time somebody remembers you or says something about you, right? So effectively now, because of the internet, it's pretty easy to live a life where your body dies, but you don't actually ever die in the minds of other people, because video and other content perpetuates that. And even if people stop paying attention to something, as long as your content still exists, some circumstance may change in the world, to then make it relevant. So you may exist in the minds of people for the rest of people. Like, that's amazing. Like, we're so lucky. This reply says, always pursue your goal and never give up. If someone can talk you out of what you want to be, then you don't want to be it. A friend of mine's father, when I was 18, would walk down the street with me and say, "What? Are you crazy? You want to be Arthur Godfrey? What are you, nuts? Come work at my factory. I'll make you a foreman someday." And I never gave up. Yeah, being more than a factory foreman sounds good. This question for Larry King says, were you ever intimidated conducting an interview with any particular guest on your show? Oh, okay. The answer to this is definitely yes. There's no way he says no. No way. He says, the first minute with Frank Sinatra, Jackie Gleason had arranged the interview for me. I was nervous. It was the first time I was nervous, but I got over it in a minute, and Frank eventually became a friend. Dr. Jan Adams walked off the show. Mel Brooks jumped on top of the desk and sang a song called Dancing in the Dark, saying it was how old Jews die. They jump on the desk, they can't hit the high note, and they die. Or when I asked Heather Mills to show me what an artificial leg looked like, and she took it off. Those were great moments. See, these are replies by Larry King. It appears this is actually him, because often you can look up stuff and it's very debatable. Maybe it's some random person. But if you look up this post, you can actually see that he has a tweet on his account in 2014, April 29th, saying, go to Reddit, I'm doing an Ask Me. Oh, it wasn't Ask Me absolutely anything. It was Ask Me almost anything. Oh, I just assumed it was absolutely. That's funny. A question says, first, Mr. King, thank you for doing this. Ask Me Anything. One question. Do you have a personal supply of suspenders? Is there a specific brand you always wear? So it's funny this guy mentions this because Larry King loves suspenders. Like if you go to his Twitter, his actual profile says, loves suspenders and interviewing people. So considering he spent his life interviewing people, you could argue that in that statement, he's saying he likes suspenders more than interviewing people. He also wears them all the time. So with Larry King, suspenders are sort of an internet meme, so to speak. Larry King says, mostly Trafalgar. They're pretty good, but people send me suspenders. I actually have many more ties than I do suspenders. I probably have 100 or so suspenders and 400 or so ties. Huh. You know, I've never had a desire to eat a turnip or an oyster or to ride a motorcycle, or I never wanted to parachute. George H.W. Bush wanted me to jump out of a plane with him on his 80th birthday. We would have been in tandem. I would have done that, but my doctor wouldn't let me. I don't know what that has to do with the turnip, but you know what? Larry King sounds like he's stoned. It might be. At first, I thought it was just that the software that I'm using is like not showing some of the responses. But then he was like, well, I don't know why I'm telling you this story because you said something about a turnip. But there we go. Oh, that's great. Another question says, Larry, what's the most valuable skill or technique that you've learned in order to get people to discuss something that is very personal to them on the air? Larry says, I think it's a matter of approach. I think I'm very comfortable to be around. They know I'm sincerely interested in them, that I will listen completely to their answer. I make good eye contact, and I care about what they have to say. That sounds accurate. That's also whenever I've had a lot of situations in my own life where people have been like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, or I'll meet someone if it's like a potential roommate or somebody who for some reason I put a lot more effort into getting to know them and being present and asking them relevant questions and listening to them basically. But you'd be surprised. Most people are so choked from kind of getting the chance to be heard They don't feel like people listen to them. So if you, as an interviewer, are just good at listening to someone, it's quite easy to get people to talk. If you have struggled getting people to talk, that just means that you don't have enough time to practice and you're spending too much time talking. Because if you have people to practice with and you're interacting with them and you ask them questions and you ask them the right questions and you do the right things with them to make them feel comfortable, they're going to talk to you. They're going to open up to you. You have to, it's not about what do you do, right? There's not some one thing that will make all people open up to you. But by using what you know about people so that you can understand what makes that person feel comfortable and do those things, that's how you really get someone to open up. So it's really about you paying attention and knowing a person and being able to do that. And so there's some basic things that you can do, like with your body language and your tone of voice, but a lot of it is don't talk too fast, spend more time listening than talking. That's it, basically. If you just listen to people, they want to talk. That's usually how it works. Larry, moving on, actually. I already read what he said. Another question for Larry says, hello, what is your most favorite moment in television history? Larry says, if I had to pick one out, it would be Parrott-Gore debates in 1994, which attracted almost 20 million viewers. Or Perot. Perot? Maybe that's a silent T. Apologies. Debates in 1994. Well, I was one when that happened. Then he adds, being always curious. I was a curious child with just about everything. I always wanted to know why, so I always wanted to be in broadcasting. I never had any other goal, so I found the perfect venue for me, which is asking questions. Makes sense? Hey Larry, how cool are you with Uncle Snoop Doggy Dogg? I watched your interview on GGN, and it's one of my favorites thus far. Bless up. Oh man, I should watch more of his interviews. Larry replies, Snoop Dogg is one of my main men. You don't have to smoke pot to be in his presence. I love him. He's bright, he's fun, he's a good father, and he's a good man. Snoop is my man. That's so cool. What do you think, Larry, about the Donald Sterling decision the commissioner just made? Larry says, I completely agree with what Adam Silver did today. He was outstanding. I'm a Clipper fan. I wasn't going to let my children go to the game tonight, but now they will go. I know Donald Sterling. I'm embarrassed for him. I like his wife very much, and she deserves better. This was a great decision. Great for the league, great for the society. This is a historic day. Go Clippers. Well, what about the fact that his statements were made from a private conversation? This is bordering on Minority Report shit. I don't agree with what he said at all, and I think it's a piece of shit, but king hell, those are some serious repercussions for something said in private. Regardless of how he felt in private, his public acts were enough to warrant accolades from the NAACP. He's being persecuted for his own feelings, which I'm sure are still legal to have. Another reply says, what boggles the mind is how a racist owner can also be the best minority employer in the league. And you know damn well he doesn't believe in affirmative action. Another question for Larry King. Ooh, this is relevant, actually. Very relevant because he's dead now. Larry, when you had your health scares, did it change your outlook on life afterward? Larry said, I stopped smoking. I lost weight. I became very conscious of health. I became a good patient. My father died at age 46 of a heart attack. I had my heart attack at age 53, and now I am 80. So I must be doing something right, even though I'm currently eating a pizza slice. If I drop off in the middle of this, goodbye to all. Oh, that's sweet. Larry, what book you recently read would you recommend? Well, I read 2 books at once. I just started a biography of John Wayne, and it's terrific. And I read every crime novel by Michael Connelly, who I think is the best. And a brilliant book I just finished was One Summer. It detailed life in America in 1927. It's an amazing read. One Summer. On my 123rd birthday, when they tell me the vacation resort I'm going to does not allow them. I guess that's an inside joke I don't understand. Hello, Mr. King. Thank you for doing this Ask Me Anything. What is your opinion on the current state of cable news? Also, what does Conan O'Brien smell like? I never smelled Conan O'Brien, but I like him very much. He's a very good friend. He's been to my house for dinner, he has a wonderful sense of humor, and he is very, very, very bright. It's a mix. A lot of it I find disturbing. They report on stories too quickly. They might pander the audience. I still find that NBC, ABC, and CBS give me my best news in about half an hour. What's your best jokes? Huh. Larry says, I have hundreds of great jokes. I live for great jokes. Here's a current one. A man goes to the doctor, and he says, I have bad news. Worse news. The doctor says, the bad news is you have cancer. The patient says, that's terrible. What's the worst news? The doctor says, you also have Alzheimer's. And the patient says, thank God I don't have cancer. Oh, that's horrible. A reply says, I think Conan O'Brien is a great prick. I guested with him when he was playing that O'Reilly character when he does it so well. He's a wonderful and humorous guy. I think he'll make a great host. Oh, a great pick. That comment was actually a compliment. This reply says, how did you react when you heard that Craig Ferguson is stepping down from the Late Late Show? Will you be one of his final guests? Larry says, I love Craig Ferguson. I've been on the show numerous times. He told me it was for him to go. I'm sure he will do terrific things ahead. He is a great alert. I don't know if it's underrated, but Chipotle. My kids love it, and the few times I've had to taste the food, it's pretty good. I find the food always tasty, and my kids love it. Chipotle is their favorite. Oh. Larry's kids like Chipotle. Good for Chipotle. Larry, I love your contribution to journalism. What was the most uncomfortable question you've had to ask an interviewee in your whole career? Oof. Huh. Larry says, well, the toughest part is questioning the relatives of the victims of a death. A child who was murdered, and you have to talk to their parents, or children who are missing. Those kinds of emotional things are always the hardest. You don't like doing them. You don't have to do it, and it's always, always hard. Next question is, oh, this one's lame. Corned beef or pastrami? I guess this is the more internet question. What deli meat do you think would make a better pair of suspenders? He didn't even reply. Nice. This question says, hi, Mr. King. Thanks for doing this Ask Me Anything. What are you currently most passionate about in your life? Larry says, I'm passionate about baseball, the Clippers, my children, and their athletics. They both play baseball, and I go to most of their games. I'm passionate about Aura TV and the success of this undertaking of which I am part owner. I'm passionate about fighting discrimination. I hate people who are racist. I'm passionate about social issues, like gay marriage and pro-choice issues. I'm a passionate person. About once a week, I take a slice of pizza if it's good pizza. This is pretty good pizza. New York pizza is the best. I like thin pizzas, crisp with a nice combination of cheese and tomato. I don't like all the extras. The food I hate is eggs. I can't stand the look of them, the smell of them. I am anti-egg. What? Oh, Larry, I love eggs. Oh, cool. This person says, "Hi, in November of 1988, you interviewed my grandfather, Holocaust survivor Leo Breatholz, on your radio show. I remember him telling me you held up his star and said something to the tune of, 'So if I were in Europe, I would have to wear one of these.' I was wondering if you had any memories or recollection at all of the interview. He passed away in March, so it has been great hearing so many people's stories talking to him. Of course, I'm very aware that you've interviewed literally thousands of people, so I obviously won't be surprised if you can't recall one interview you did in the 80s. I just wanted to try. Thanks a lot." Haha. Larry says, "I've interviewed a number of Holocaust survivors, but they are people I have the most compassion for, the most respect for. What they have lived through was unbearable, impossible to comprehend. I salute them for what they did through, and what they went through, and what they endured. The one I remember in particular was one who was there for 5 years in a camp in Poland. I remember him vividly because he was the camp comic who could not stop laughing. We invited Don Rickles to come on and sat him next to Don Rickles, and he never cracked a smile. So I have great compassion for you. I'm sorry for the loss of your grandfather. Your grandfather is a local, and obviously beyond, hero. Such an amazing story. It must really be an honor to call him family. You know, I never actually met him, but I've always heard about him, and even learned his story back in high school. He was a huge part of the special WBAL put together a few years ago, wasn't he? I think it was WBAL. Kind of crazy how a relative of someone can know even less about them than random strangers online, huh? I'm gonna skip that because it was some of these questions are lame, but some of them are good and deep ones, like this one. Mr. King, have you had the opportunity to ask a lot of questions to a lot of very important people? Are there any questions you regret not asking? Oh, we didn't get a reply for that one. This question says, I remembered that you interviewed Mark David Chapman, John Lennon's murderer, on Larry King Live in around 1992. And I think it was, how do you feel when interviewing him? Larry says, well, that was a strange day. He was in prison, so we did it via remote, of course. They show it now in specials on Lennon. He was a strange bird. He had his demon, and I don't know if I felt sorry for him or compassion for him, but I tried to reach a level of understanding with him. I always enjoyed them. I love radio. I still do radio on Cumulus Radio, and I'm on the AARP every day. I tape shows every week, 1-minute comments, like a modern-day Paul Harvey. Radio is the most intimate media of all, and as long as there are automobiles, there will always be radio. Ha! That's funny. Yeah, because people listen to radio on their way to work. That's deep. True insight into society. This question for Larry says, is it hard to invent still new questions? And what do you do when you can't think of any? You can never run out of questions to ask, because not everyone listens to all your content. This question says, what will you make of the 2016 presidential election? And who do you think are the top candidates for each party? Oh, this is going to be great. I wonder what he said. Because this is before the internet knew about Donald Trump being president, basically. Because this post, this Ask Me Anything, happened in 2014. What's he going to say? Okay. Larry says, I think Hillary Clinton will run. I think the best race would be if Jeb Bush run. It would be someone to the left of center, someone to the right of center. I know them both. They've been outstanding candidates. Bush versus Clinton. Nope. Trump versus Clinton. Larry was wrong. He was right about Clittery. Wow, I just said Clittery. That's bad. Hillary. Wow, it's very easy to put clit into her name. Hillary Clinton. Clittery. Wow, okay. Hillary Clinton. Oh, anagrams. Rumor has it, you're the roast host for my Uncle Pat's 80th birthday bash in Beverly Hills. Is this true? If so, let me know and I'll give you a little au jus to pour on the roast. Thank you for having him on your show. You guys are both legends. Yeah, so whenever it's red like this means that it hasn't loaded a response. So it could mean that King just never responded, because that's totally possible, because he's not going to respond to every single comment on a Reddit post in like 4 days. Like, these posts got like 1,000 comments in like 12 hours. Like, so a lot of times you have these questions and then they just don't get a response, right? Next question is, hey, Larry King, what is something you'll never forget about your career in Hollywood? Thank you for taking your time out of this day for this Ask Me Anything. Larry says, my whole career was 20 years in Miami, 20 in Washington, and 17 years in Los Angeles. And the highlight of Los Angeles was just being in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is my favorite city in the world. I love the weather, I love the people, I love my home, I love Beverly Hills. I don't even mind the traffic sometimes. Yeah, so that's like, Los Angeles is awesome when you have money. Like, it's very different when you don't have money. Very different. So it makes sense, because Larry King has been wealthy his entire life. Like, he was born wealthy. So a great example of how just because you're born wealthy doesn't mean you're an asshole. You can still do amazing things and provide understanding of people to other people in the world and try and make the world better and get really into it, Even if you're born with a silver spoon, it doesn't mean you're a horrible narcissist. It's funny how people tend to judge rich people while they also judge poor people. And a lot of humans, we have this perception. We're like, well, if I was just this way, I wouldn't be judged. And that's how society truly F's us. That's how society truly fucks us. It's because we think that if we get like thinner, we won't get judged. Or if we get fatter, we won't get judged. Or if we get smarter, we won't get judged. Or if we won't get money, we won't get judged. But guess what, guys? You're going to be judged no matter what you do for the rest of your life. That's how it is. That's how people are. And you have to build a strength to it so that you cannot be as affected by it. Because if you tell yourself, oh, if I just earn more money, people won't judge me anymore. Well, someday maybe you'll be rich. And then you'll be like, oh, people still judge me. What is this? Moving on. This question says, tell the truth. Are you a robot? If not, you look fantastic. What is your secret? But if so, what oil do you use in your joints? Well, Larry says, I take a lot of vitamins, I take heart medications, and I take HGH. I've been taking that for years in pill form. I know it's banned in baseball, but my doctor credits it for vitality. I know I feel young, I don't get jet lagged when I fly, so I chalk it up to the HGH. Oh, this is interesting. This question says, did you see the segment that John Oliver did on the Indian elections in his pilot of Last Week Tonight? What would you say to the American media who, according to Oliver, have systemically ignored them so far? He says, I think John Oliver is hysterical. I thought the show was great. I thought the segment on India was hysterical, and that show will last a long time. I think we should cover the other countries' elections, but the lowest rated shows are when you talk about things in a foreign countries, unless it involves American troops. Sadly, even though India is 1/5 of the world population, it's really hard to charge them up. Yeah, welcome to the United States, and welcome to one of the great ironies of the U.S., because, like, from the U.S., living in the U.S., you have a different perspective from the U.S. than the rest of the world, right? But either way, you probably have an opinion about the U.S. And frustratingly, for those of us who are in the rest of the world, oftentimes countries can't not compare themselves to the U.S., even when they don't need to. The U.S. really, whether it should be or deserves to be or whatever, is always compared, and people in foreign countries are always focusing on what's happening in the U.S. Not necessarily above what's their own country, but that is quite a distinction that Larry's bringing up right now that makes kind of the U.S. people different than most of the rest of the world, is that a lot of the rest of the world, they'll actually pay attention to news in foreign countries, particularly in the U.S. Whereas in the United States, people just don't give a about foreigners. And it's so ironic because the US is the youngest country that was created by foreigners running away from, who wanted to be away from freedom. US is supposed to be the land of immigration and freedom. Yeah, they don't give a about the rest of the world. It's sad. Moving on. Larry, in your lifetime, you've seen a lot of change. What is the one thing you wish would have never changed? Larry says, the loss of the typewriter. I loved my typewriter. I love typing my columns. Second to that, I miss letters. I miss getting mail by people who actually wrote letters. I like mail. I like putting a stamp on an envelope and sending it in a box. I like transmission, but I don't need to know things immediately. That's funny. So this person who you could argue that Larry King's life was defined by radio transmission and broadcast, this person points out how they miss the fact that people used to write letters and send them. That'll probably become a thing again, because when technology, in the beginning, when technology changes, the mainstream and society's so trendy right now. It really follows trends more than application and utility. But that's gonna change with enough time. Once more people have a higher quality of life and they have more free time, then it becomes more about what people actually want to do with their time and crap, not what's currently trending. And you just need some time in life to be distracted by what's trending and everything to help you learn what you want yourself. But in some ways, what's trending distracts you from what is you, right? So you have to be careful with these kind of things. Don't jump on the bandwagon all the time. Just be aware when you're doing it. This question says, thank you for doing this again, Mr. King. After several shows about UFOs over the years, do you believe in extraterrestrial life? Well, okay. King says, I don't discount UFOs. I don't discount anything. It would be logical to think that there's more than this planet and more than this universe. It's all so enormous to me that I'm always amazed that there are people who know the answer, whether there is a God or isn't a God. The truth is, I don't know. And I'm always amazed at people who feel like they do know. I don't know if there are UFOs or if there aren't UFOs. I just hope I'm around long enough to know both answers. And if you can book them on my show, great. It's a picture of me and my wife and my little boys when they were around 3 or 4. Oh, he shared a photo, I guess. This question says, what's a typical day like for you? Well, because they deliberately focus on politics, on LKL, we did a lot of stuff that was a bit more tabloid, like who was sleeping with whom. I wish we did more politics. That was a specific question, huh? This question says, are you doing Norm Macdonald's live again? Any thoughts on doing more stand-up, and how do you like it? Larry says, I love doing it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'd love to do more with it. Had a wonderful time touring. I'd like to do something on Broadway. One of the biggest thrills I get is making people laugh. That's awesome. All right, everybody. I hope you appreciate this day of appreciation for Larry King. Don't worry too much about the fact that he died. Go watch some of his interviews. Enjoy his life. Spend some time learning about him. That's what we should do when great humans bite the bullet. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao. Oh, and as always, if you'd like to make this kind of content, please reach out to us. We are looking for other YouTube content creators who either want thumbnails made or want SEO done, any kind of services you want for your YouTube channel, reach out to us. We are developing virtual assistant and software solutions for these problems. So if you've been trying to make a YouTube channel, but you've been putting it off for a long time, or you've already been running a YouTube channel and you need better thumbnails, reach out to us. We can help you. All right, everybody. You can get our email from our About page on this YouTube channel. Send us an email, say hello, and we'll have a Zoom call with you. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao!